So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Cuckoo back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, September 7th. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Tuesday, September 7th. Here today, coming off of another big day in baseball yesterday. You also had a college football game on last night, Ole Miss versus Louisville. So it's officially done. Week 1 in college football is officially done with that game that went on last night between Ole Miss and Louisville, as Ole Miss was able to get the win, 43-24. Watched a little bit of that game, which was a pretty good game actually. Watched a little bit of that game. Not as big name schools. Ole Miss and Louisville aren't your Alabama, aren't your Georgias, Clemson, Ohio States, but it was still a good game. It was college football. So college football is officially wrapped up for week 1. Now we look ahead towards week 2, and a big day yesterday in baseball. But the New York Yankees lose yet again yesterday, and it's just another brutal loss. As I mentioned yesterday in the podcast, it's the same. It's almost like this team's very streaky. It's been streaky all season long. I've said it all season long. I haven't sat here and said, oh, this team is the best team in baseball or whatever. I've said this entire season. I've said that this team's been streaky. We have moments where we're winning 10 of our 10 out of our next 15, and there's moments where we lose 10 of 15, and it's like it's been that way, and we never really been able to get on a consistent win streak. And I'm not saying go on a 30-game win streak and then lose maybe one in a row and then go on another 30-game win streak. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying consistency building wins. It doesn't have to be, we go through these long stretches where we win a lot and then we lose a lot. That's inconsistent. If you just win 2-3, if you win each series, that's consistency. I'm not saying go out there and win every single series, but if you just find a way to at least take 2 out of 3 for most of your series, win each series, you're going to be good. And the Yankees this season have struggled to do that. And yet again yesterday, you lose and the bats go absolutely quiet. I said this on Monday, yesterday. I said yesterday was the opposite of what happened. What happened on Sunday against the Orioles was the opposite of what happened Monday, which is why this team's so unpredictable. And us as Yankee fans, we got to get used to that because it's been this way this entire year. Look at Sunday for an example. The Orioles had scored 8 runs. Yankees scored 7. The Yankees offense did their job. Andrew Heaney and the bullpen didn't. Yesterday, for example, Yankees score or get 2-3 hits. They don't score a run. Well, the bullpen, the pitching was good. Tyone outside of that first inning did his job. He allowed 2 home runs in the first inning, but after that, he shut them down, gave us a good distance, gave us 7 innings, a 2-run ball, exactly what we needed. That was a good start from him. No run support, barely any hits. It was the opposite, and that's why this team's so inconsistent, so unpredictable. One game you put up 7 hits and your bullpen blows, or 7 runs and 7 hits, I believe, and your bullpen blows it. And you have another game where you don't score a run, your pitching does the job, but you blow. And I know they allowed 8 runs, but let's be honest here, that was Brooks Kriske in the 9th inning. Even if he didn't allow any of those runs, even if he worked a 1-2-3 inning, let's be honest here, Yankees were still going to lose that game. Yankees weren't coming back from 4-0 and winning that game. Or whatever it was. 3-0, 4-0, right? Because I think he allowed the solo home run, then walked, 2-3 guys, and then allowed the grand slam. So at that point, it was like, even if he worked a 1-3 inning, the Yankees were not coming back either way. So Yankees take a tough loss. We got to bounce back today. I'm trying to find areas where I can feel confident. You got Cole on the mound today. He's had a lot of big performances this season. He's our ace. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. You can make the argument he's going to be the AL Cy Young. So, we got to see, what he does today. Hopefully he comes out and gives us the performances like he's been giving us all season long. But, the Yankees here yet again here. We talked about 13 straight and how we were winning, and now all of a sudden we're talking about what's wrong with this team. It's been happening all season long. So Yankees take a tough loss yesterday, 8-0. Got to bounce back today. Keep saying as a fan, as a player, you just got to move on to the next day. It's baseball. It is what it is. Frustrating. But Yankees today against the Blue Jays. Mets yesterday also terrible. So both New York baseball teams right now, as they both make playoff pushes, Yankees are still in the playoffs, but as they both make playoff pushes here, or trying to make the playoffs, they continue to struggle. Mets yesterday struggled. They lost. I mean, a brutal loss for the Mets as well. Bring in Edwin Diaz. He walks the leadoff guy in that inning, and boom, that's it. And Edwin Diaz, I've said this entire time, even though he had a good year last year in the shortened 60-game season, and I believe the 25 appearances he made, he had a 1.75 ERA, even though he had all that stuff, this season's been a struggle, and he's not been the guy that the Mets were expecting to get, nor did they want to get when they got who they got from the Mariners. I mean, what they got when they picked him up, when they traded for him from the Mariners, he was arguably the best closer in baseball. He's came here, he's not been the same guy. Blows another save yesterday. So Mets got to find a way to bounce back today against the Marlins, and the Yankees also got to find a way to bounce back today against the Blue Jays. I guess if you want to be a glass half full type response, I guess this is the perfect time to have football season here, because the Yankees and the Mets and the Yankees right now are both struggling. You know, as Met fans, they've been struggling this entire year. Yankees are just starting to continue to struggle again. But it's like the same thing. It's like both baseball teams are struggling. It's like, all right, let's hope that at least both football teams, you know, if you're a Giant fan or you're a Jet fan, you just got to hope that your football team does well. Because both baseball teams in New York right now are not doing well right now. The Yankees overall in the season, like I said, been inconsistent. Mets have had a bad year. So it's like football season can't come soon enough. But even football, Giants and Jets have tend to struggle the past couple seasons. But for both teams, for the Jets, like I said, there's optimism, there's hope. I think we're definitely in a much better situation. For the Giants, it's a big year. What's going to happen with your quarterback, receivers, all that stuff. So it's like football season can't come soon enough right now with both baseball teams playing the way they're playing. But either way, Yankees and Mets today. Let's get to the topics for today's podcast, a packed podcast as usual. Both two football topics today. I know you could say, you should talk about the Yankees. I talked about the Yankees yesterday. So I want to get to two football topics today. First off, first topic up here, I want to get to the Ravens extend Mark Andrews. So the Baltimore Ravens have extended their tight end, their really good tight end, Mark Andrews, to a 4-year deal, $56 million contract, as the Ravens, continue to look like they're going to be another team this season that's going to be battling it in that AFC North. They're going to be right up there with the Cleveland Browns. I don't think the Steelers or Bengals have a chance. I think it's going to be the Browns and the Ravens battling for that division. But yet again, this is a Ravens team that, is in the same situation they are in every year. Like they got the guys. It's just a matter of, can they put the playoff success together? Can that regular season success translate into postseason success? And locking up Mark Andrews for another 4 seasons isn't only big for this year, but it's big moving forward. I'll get to that, get to what he brings to the table and overall the Baltimore Ravens. And then we'll get to the Saquon Barkley injury update. A lot of news yesterday about Barkley. He practiced fully. He went through practice well. Everything came out pretty clean. Nothing happened. He didn't feel anything. It looks like he feels pretty good to go. And it looks like all signs are pointing him playing week 1. It might be, we don't really know yet if it's going to be limited or not. The Giants, even if Barkley feels good, the Giants might limit him anyway just to be on the safe side. But either way, Barkley is practicing, and it looks like Barkley will be ready for week 1, which is big for the New York Giants. And overall, I think just big for the NFL, because I think we all have been excited to see Barkley come back. He's a really good running back when he's healthy. He's had some tough injuries throughout his career here. He had the ankle, now he had the knee. It's like, can he finally go through a full season without being injured? And I'll tell you what, this is a big year for Saquon Barkley. And I'll tell you why. And I'll get to this more as I get to the topic in more detail. But it's a big year for Barkley, because if he has, let's say he plays 3 games this season, he gets injured again. He's a running back, and can you even count on him then? Then you got to start thinking, is he really our guy? Is Barkley really our guy? Because, right, if Barkley comes here and he plays 3 games this season, and, he doesn't play and he plays the first 3 games and, I don't know, gets another knee injury that sidelines him for the rest of the year. There's questions, I think, looming then around his future, because that's 3 major injuries in his 3-4 year career here. It's a big year for Barkley. It's a big year for the Giants in general. I'll get to all that second topic. Then we'll get to the New York sports update. As I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, Yankees and Mets today both try to snap the little skids that they're on. Well, the Yankees are on a more bigger losing streak right now. The Yankees are on a 3-game losing streak. Mets lost yesterday, so that's only like a 1-game losing streak. But either way, the way the Mets lost yesterday, and you go out and you trade. I'll tell you what, that Edwin Diaz trade has been a lose-lose for both sides. The Mets got Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz, and Cano, we all know, even when he's been healthy, he had a good year last year, but I mean, just a weird year. He hasn't been what they expected. Now he's suspended. He took PEDs, he's suspended. So we'll just leave it at that. Robinson Cano suspended, hasn't been the player they expected him to be. Edwin Diaz has not been the closer they expected him to be. But then if you go to the Mariners side, Jared Kellnick, who the big prospect they got in return, he's been terrible. And he at the beginning of the season, he got called up, and then he got sent back down, then he got called back up, and he's been a pure example of, just destroying minor league pitching, but can't do anything at the MLB level. And it's like the Mariners get a prospect who's done nothing, and the Mets have gotten 2 players that have done absolutely nothing. One who's been suspended, and the other guy who's blowing saves left and right. So it's like that's 2 blown saves in 3 days for Edwin Diaz. So it's like that trade, that's a definition of a lose-lose trade. Both franchises want to forget about that. Maybe Kellnick, turns into this big guy, but right now it doesn't look like it. Either way, lots to get to today on the podcast. With all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So Mark Andrews, Ravens agree to reported 4-year, $56 million contract extension. Yes, you've heard that right. The Baltimore Ravens have locked up their starting tight end, Mark Andrews, on a 4-year, $56 million extension as the Ravens battle some injuries to the running back position and, suffer some blows there. They will only gain here extending Mark Andrews. And as the season, comes closer, we're very close to the season, 2 days away. I know some people say, oh, well, technically one day. No. 2 days away from the season. Tomorrow will be the final day without football. Then you got Thursday. Then Friday, I'm sure there'll be college games on. Then Saturday, then Sunday, then Monday. Packed weekend ahead of us. I'm really excited. So, before the season starts, we always see some of these contract negotiations. You see it. Pittsburgh right now is in a little bit of an interesting situation because TJ Watt says that he wants an extension before the season. The Steelers are optimistic they're going to get it done, but there's some rumors saying that he might not play week 1 if he doesn't get an extension done, which is the last thing teams want to happen. Now, here with Mark Andrews, a little different. Mark Andrews is not pushing for a contract extension. I mean, I'm sure he wanted one, and obviously they're not just going to give him one if he didn't want one. I'm sure he's been, looking to get one, but he's not been, threatening like, oh, I'm not going to play week 1 or I'm not going to play the season until I get my extension. I think both sides, Ravens, their GM and their front office said on March 9th, they actually had like an interview, I think, that they said Mark Andrews is one of their priorities. They like him a lot. They want him to stay in the team. They believe that, he's the right guy for that, for that team and everything. And what he's done these past couple seasons has been great. And, you can make the argument. I wouldn't say, I would disagree with the argument saying he's the best tight end. I think Kelsey and Kittle probably hold that honor. But outside of that, Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, all those guys are relatively all close to being the second and third and fourth and top 5 tight ends in the league. And Mark Andrews is right up there in that conversation. And we always talk about, different offenses and different schemes. And, some teams, are really, throw the ball deep a lot. Some teams throw the ball, short, and they don't throw the ball deep as much. Like the Saints, they air the ball out. The Packers, they air the ball out. Chiefs, pure example of an offense that is a big play type offense. It's a very vertical offense. It's an offense that runs deep. You got a deep ball threat in Tyreek Hill. You got Travis Kelce that puts up numbers like a wide receiver at the tight end position. You got a quarterback that can chuck the ball, seems like 300 yards. So the Chiefs are your pure example of a deep ball offense. And the Ravens, on the other hand, are an example of like an old school offense, a lot of running, and when they do throw, it's short. It's these little across the middle routes. It's not airing the ball out 50 yards downfield. It's making these little 6-7 yard passes and letting your receivers and tight end do the rest. And Mark Andrews has fitted that offense perfectly. And the way the Ravens run their offense is exactly the way, let me reset here. The way the Ravens run their offense is exactly what they are the way they run their offense fits Mark Andrews' play perfectly. Because the way they run their offense, they need a consistent and really good tight end. Because their offense is a lot of short passes, it is a lot of running, it is a lot of, Lamar Jackson running himself and taking the ball himself, but it is a lot of running, like I said. But when they do pass, they're not going to be the Kansas City Chiefs and air the ball out. They're not going to, do the Packers and Aaron Rodgers deep downfield to Devontae Adams. No. They're going to throw the ball short, and they're going to, when they throw it short, they're going to target Mark Andrews a ton. And they've done it throughout the past couple seasons. And you can make the argument that Mark Andrews, maybe outside of Lamar Jackson, has been the most valuable player, not even just on that offense, but on that team. Because if you don't have Mark Andrews and you don't have a consistent tight end, the way they run their offense and what they do with their offense is completely blown out of the window. Because he's a guy that you need a solid, consistent tight end, a good pass-catching tight end in order to run that offense and run it smoothly. Because their offense is very old school. We all know how the old NFL was. It was a lot of running, not much passing downfield. I mean, back then, fullbacks got used a ton. And the Ravens actually tend to do that a lot. That's why Ravens suffering their running back issues that they have are big blows to them, because they use their running backs and they use their running game a lot. And I feel like in a way, this might have even made the Ravens push to get a deal done with Mark Andrews quicker due to the running back issues. Because you had Dobbins go down, now you have Hill go down. So really Gus Edwards the main guy. The Ravens are actually working out Le'Veon Bell and Devontae Freeman as some replacements. And I said that a couple weeks ago that there were some rumors, but I said they didn't need to. But now that their other running back went down, plus Dobbins, they really only got one true running back in that backfield right now. You need another guy out there. So I feel like in a way, with all these running back issues and knowing that, not depending on how they bounce back, but knowing that this season, you're going to be a little bit thinner at the running back position, I feel like this might have made the Ravens say, hey, we got to get this deal done. We got to get him locked up because we need him. And for an offense that is heavy, reliant on the run, and when we pass, it's short, we need a guy like Mark Andrews in our offense, and he's fit the offense perfectly. And like I said, I think you can make the argument that Mark Andrews has been one of the better tight ends the past couple seasons. Top 5, top 7. I would not say he's the best. I don't think that's fair, because I think Travis Kelce and George Kittle, I'm not going to sit here and argue one way or the other. That's a debate for another day. I'm not going to say who's number one. I think last season was Kelce, but I very well think when Kittle's healthy, and last season he missed a lot of time, when Kittle's healthy, Kittle could be the best, and when Kelce's doing what he's doing, he could be the best. They're both so close. They're both up there. Right now, it's probably Kelce, but very well this season, that honor could change. And then right behind them are guys like Mark Andrews, guys like Darren Waller. I think you can even say Robert Tonyan has entered his name, not into maybe the top 5, but definitely top 10. There's so many other tight ends out there that you could say, could be on the outside looking in and maybe top 10. But Mark Andrews, without a doubt, the way he fits that offense, the way he plays, and the way the Ravens utilize him in such a way where they throw the ball to him a lot, and they rely on him to get a lot of yards with his legs. Because they throw a lot of these little 6-7 yard, mesh routes across the middle, and he, will get you 5-6 extra yards, and boom, a 6-yard pass turns into a 12-13 yard play. And that's exactly what they're getting out of Mark Andrews. And like I said, I think he's right up there with guys like, he's right up there in the top 5 conversation, top 7 at the position. I could list 10 tight ends and rank them. I'm not going to do it right now, because this is strictly about Mark Andrews, but definitely, if I were to sit here and rank the top tight ends, Andrews would be up there. Not number 1, but he would be up there. And in terms of offensive scheme fit, he fits it perfectly. And he's been consistent. I talk about consistency all the time on this show. It might actually get a little repetitive how much I talk about consistency, but just as a fan and as a human being in general, consistency is huge. And I talked about it so many times with the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees have been inconsistent this season. The only thing the Yankees have been consistent at is being inconsistent. They've been consistently inconsistent. So, I've always talked about consistency. If you can give me good, solid consistency, you're a good player. I always judge a player off of consistency. You know, that's a big time. You could look at the numbers and all that stuff, whatever position. Like, if you're looking at a quarterback, I always judge him off. Or let's just go tight end here. If you're looking at a tight end, 1 week he goes off for 100 yards, and then he has 4 straight weeks where he does nothing. Then he goes off for 100 yards again. That's not good. That's inconsistent. That's a guy that you can't rely on. That's a guy that will have maybe 3-4 big weeks in the entire season. But other than that, he's going to be average. And his final line on the season might be 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, and maybe 3 touchdowns, 600 yards, and 60 or 30 catches. And that's like not a great stat line for a guy who maybe is supposed to be really good. But for Mark Andrews, he's consistent. He goes out there week in and week out. They utilize him a lot. And sometimes when you see players get utilized a lot, sometimes defenses and other teams start to pick up and they're like, okay, well, we got to cover this guy or double this guy or look at this guy. That's not the case. That's not the case with Andrews because he's always finding a way to get open here. And he's always finding a way to, what the Ravens need out of him. He's always finding a way to get it done. So definitely a good move here. And this isn't a move, like I said, this isn't I say this a lot, but it's a 4-year deal. So you are investing a good amount into him. It's a $56 million contract extension. You are investing a pretty good amount into him, but you're investing a guy who fits your scheme perfectly, is a big part of your team, not just your offense, but your team, and a guy who, if he continues to play like he does, you have a top 5 tight end, top 7 tight end locked up for the next 4 seasons. And that's exactly what the Ravens need, especially this year where their running back room has not just taken a hit, but taken a massive hit with J.K. Dobbins and now Hill going down with 2 season-ending injuries. You're going to rely a whole lot more this season on Mark Andrews. So a very solid move for the Baltimore Ravens. And the Ravens, we always make fun of their offense. I always make fun of their offense. I mean, you got Lamar Jackson, who's practically a running back. And you got him running the ball a ton. But they still find ways to, utilize Andrews. And when they throw, most of that time, it's the tight end and Mark Andrews. All right, so let's read this quick article here. And we'll kind of read some more of the contract logistics and all that stuff. All right, so Mark Andrews, Ravens agree to reported 4-year, $56 million contract extension. So the Baltimore Ravens announced Monday that they have agreed to terms on a 4-year contract extension with tight end Mark Andrews, with Ian Rappaport of NFL Network reporting the deal is worth $56 million. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler provided more details on the 26-year-old's contract. So this is some more deep logistics in the deal. So Mark Andrews' new $56 million deal with the Ravens includes $37.6 million guaranteed. So out of the $56 million, he's $37.6 of it's guaranteed money for 63% of the deal per source. He will be paid $26.6 million by March of 2022. So pretty much this offseason, he'll be getting that full type contract. The average of $14 million per year ranks third among tight ends, behind only George Kittle $15 million and Travis Kelce $14.3 million per spot track. Andrews was due to become a free agent in 2022 upon the conclusion of his rookie contract. In March, Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta said the two sides had already begun preliminary discussions. This was all the way back on March 9th, so this was not a hoax. They clearly wanted to get something done, and maybe it took a little longer than they expected, but nonetheless, they got the deal done. Lamar Jackson's next contract continues to loom over Baltimore's future. Even if the 2019 MVP falls short of matching Patrick Mahomes' 10-year, $450 million contract, Dak Prescott just returned to the Dallas Cowboys after signing a 4-year, $160 million deal. Quick update on the Dak deal. He actually took a pay cut a little bit to free up $5 million in cap space. I don't know how much I don't think it affects his contract too much. It's still a giant deal, but it does, I think, have some cap. Maybe it's probably a little different than usual. Different than what we saw from the start. It's definitely still probably 4-year in the 160s, but he took a little bit of a pay cut, so it's it's still a massive deal. It didn't take much of a twist, but it's freed up $5 million in cap space in the Cowboys. What they do with that cap space, I have no clue. The cost of keeping an elite quarterback isn't getting any cheaper, so it's something the Ravens have to keep in mind while building out their roster. But let's be honest here, like I said, even you could make the argument Mark Andrews is one of the most important guys on the team. And if you let Mark Andrews walk, well, boom, that just completely changes the game for Lamar Jackson. I've always said this. Everybody always talks about the quarterback. They always talk about, the quarterback. And I understand that. Quarterback's a very important position. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're going to struggle. I've always said that about the offensive line, too. I think the offensive line is the most important position on the football field. You can't say anything else. It's the offensive line. Because if you don't have an offensive line, you're going to get crushed. You're going to get destroyed. No matter who's your running back, you're going to have no one blocking. The offensive line is the most underappreciated, most important position on the football field. But let's be honest here. If you're going to sign Lamar Jackson to a big deal, which I don't, sure, go ahead, do whatever you want. He's a very solid he's a good quarterback. I think he might be, I think some parts of his game definitely might need to be a little bit better for him to get a massive deal, but it's just the way he plays the game. He's a unique and he's a different quarterback. I said the league turning into a mobile quarterback league. He's more mobile than most I think we've ever seen in the NFL, but either way, that's besides the point. If you want to go out and sign a quarterback, sign Jackson to a big deal, well, you need to set him up for success. And that starts with extending, maybe outside of Jackson, your best offensive weapon. You can maybe say Dobbins, but Dobbins last season was a rookie year. So let's just be fair. In all fairness to Dobbins, last season was rookie year. Now he's going to miss all this year. No, I don't think it's fair yet to say Dobbins is their second best offensive weapon. You can say, I think he's better than Hollywood Brown as well. I think he's more trustable than Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown a little too inconsistent. He has some good games here and there, but he can't build consistency. So if you want to go out and sign Lamar Jackson, go do that. But you need to build around him first. And that's extending and that's locking up Mark Andrews for the next 4 seasons. And that's really where it all begins. Sure, you could extend Lamar Jackson all you want. But if you let Mark Andrews just go, well, oh no, who's your tight end now? Now it's a big different story, and now Lamar Jackson's play might take a hit. So they're doing it the right way. You extend that skill position player and, tight end Mark Andrews, big part of your team. Then you go out and you get Jackson, you build around him, and then you fully extend him and give him all the money you want. I'm not a Raven fan, so go ahead. Thanks to Kittle and Kelsey, Andrews was in a good position to command a hefty pay raise from his $30.4 million base salary in 2021. Like I said, he was coming off his rookie contract. He's still young. He's only 26 years old. Another reason, too, here to like this deal a lot. He's 26. By the end of this deal, he'll be what? In his 30. So, and even at that point, 30 years old isn't that old. It's not like they're giving him the deal when he's 33 years old and it's going to lead him up to his 37. This deal will get him to 30. And he still has got a lot of playing time left in his career. Alrighty, so though his first 3 years the 2018 third-round draft pick also became a vital piece in the Ravens' offense. He has caught 156 passes for 2,105 yards and 20 touchdowns in 45 games. Per StatHead, those totals ranked first among Baltimore players by a fairly wide margin. Like I said, he's their best guy, tight end receiver. It's not Marquise Brown, it's Mark Andrews. Andrews' production may not even truly illustrate his value either, since Jackson isn't a traditional drop-back passer and shouldn't be utilized as such. Put Kelsey or Kittle in Andrews' place and they might not be setting tight end and receiving records. Exactly. Because the Ravens' offense, they don't throw the ball deep. They're not getting much yards. But Andrews has adjusted to the role and he's fit perfectly. Kelsey and Kittle, they're deep ball threats. They're guys that have quarterbacks that can air the ball out. Well, Mahomes can. I don't know what the quarterback situation really there in San Francisco is, if it's going to be Trey Lance or Jimmy G. I don't really disagree with either. I know I haven't talked about that much. I don't really disagree with either. But, in terms of, Kelsey and Kittle, they would struggle in the offense with the Ravens. I'm going to use this as an example. I might lose some viewers here if I'm going to say this, but let me use this as an example. Kelsey and Kittle are deep ball threats. Look at the Jets, for example. This just popped in my head. Robbie Anderson with the Jets. Remember, he wasn't being used. He was just running deep, wasn't getting any of the ball. I mean, he would get some pass to him every once in a while, but he wasn't doing what the Jets. He just wasn't a fit. So that would almost be what Kelsey and Kittle would be the issue in the Ravens' offense. they would go deep every play, and the Ravens would be like, oh, yeah, we got him. Yeah, maybe he'll get a catch or two here and there, but that's it. So that's kind of what Robbie Anderson on the Jets, when he was just running deep and not getting any balls thrown to him, is almost what Kittle and Kelsey would do on the Ravens. They would run deep, not getting any thrown to him. But hey, they fit the Niners, that Shanahan offense, and they fit and Kelsey fit Bieniemy's and Mahomes and Reed and the Chiefs and all that offense over there. And Mark Andrews fits the Ravens offense, and it's a very unique offense for a league now that is turning into, like I said, a deep ball league. Also, a lot of mobile quarterbacks. There's not much, the running backs, and, back then they used to run a ton. They used to run a ton. Run. Passing the ball would be rare. You would run 40, 50 times a game and pass 10, 15. Now you're throwing 30, 40 times a game and running 15. So it just goes to show you the different game nowadays than back then. So DaCosta and his predecessor Ozzie Newsome have done well to assemble a deep well of skilled young players. There's a downside to that, however, since sooner or later those young players will hit the open market roughly around the same time. The Ravens already locked up the 2016 first-round pick Ronnie Stanley for 5 years and $98.8 million. Likewise, 2017 first-rounder Marlon Humphrey was rewarded with a 5-year, $97.5 million extension. Creative front offices can find ways to work around the cap, but eventually the money runs out. Baltimore already traded away two-time Pro Bowler Orlando Brown Jr., another member of the 2018 draft class, for multiple picks. Alrighty, so as DaCosta will have some difficult decisions ahead when it comes to Andrews. The choice was probably pretty easy. As the Seattle Seahawks and Houston Texans have shown, simply paying a quarterback handsomely isn't enough. You have to ensure he has a strong enough supporting cast to excel. Russell Wilson publicly laminated the state of Seattle's offensive line in February. The Athletics' Michael Sean Duggar, Mike Sando, and Jason Jenks subsequently reported on the wider issues between the quarterback and the team. The Texans have steadily destroyed their relationship with Deshaun Watson to the point where he reportedly doesn't want to play for them anymore, as we all know, the Watson saga. The Ravens addressed their passing game through the draft by selecting Rashad Bateman with the number 2017 pick and then adding Tylan Wallace in the 4th round. I like that Bateman pick a lot. I was actually high on Bateman coming out of college. I think he's going to be a solid asset for the Ravens, too, who don't have a very strong receiving core outside of Andrews. Their receiving core isn't great. Their tight end, though, is very solid. Still allowing Andrews to leave wouldn't have sent a great message to Jackson, and the offense would have clearly been worse without the Oklahoma product if he left as a free agent. Now Baltimore star quarterback will have one of his favorite targets around for the foreseeable future. Like I said, I think people get caught up in Dobbins and Jackson and this and that, but Andrews is a massive part of the offense and a massive part of that team. And very solid move here to lock him up for the next couple seasons. So let me just show you some of his stats here, along with some of his stats, his stats and some of that stuff. So this is his career high. So he's a Pro Bowler. He made the Pro Bowl in 2019. Last season, I guess he didn't make the Pro Bowl, but he is a Pro Bowler. In his career, 156 receptions, 2,105 yards, and 20 touchdowns. And if you really want to go into some of the deeper stats, 58 last season he had 58 receptions for 701 yards, 7 touchdowns, 12.1 was his average. Like I said, 16, 13, 12 average. His career average per catch is 13.5, which is exactly what I said. He'll catch the ball about 6-7 yards from the line of scrimmage, and he'll get 5-6 more yards with his legs, and he'll turn a 6-yard pass into like a 13-yard gain, like I mentioned. In his career, he's played 45 games. Injuries really haven't been an issue. He missed 2 games last season. I have a real feel. I think it might have been because of COVID. I know the Ravens had some COVID issues. I know Jackson missed the game, and RG3 had to come in. They had a couple games like that. He might have been in that. I forget exactly. But he hasn't really had injuries issues in his career. He's played 45 games. He's only missed He's missed 3 career games in 3 years. He played all 16 games in 2018, missed 1 in 2019, and last season he missed 2. But it's not like he's had any major injuries. He's been on the field consistently. 45 total games played in his career, and 2,105 yards. And like I said, he's a guy that's not going to light you up in the yards category. Look, 555, 852, 701. 2,105. But that's because he fits in the offense, and that's the way they run their offense. So, very solid asset they're gaining. And Mark Andrews will be with the Baltimore Ravens. They lock him up for another 4 seasons. And like I said, 26 years old. His birthday actually... Was it yesterday? Wow, his birthday was actually yesterday. So he actually signed a contract on his birthday. Yesterday was his birthday, I believe. Right? No. Today, what is it? Is this the 10th? Is this 10 or is this 9, the month? 9/6/1995. He's 26 years old. Is it bad that I don't know this? Is, I think, September. Yeah, September's 9th. So yesterday was actually his birthday. Because because February's the 8th, September's 9, and 10, 11, 12 is December. And then you go to 1. So yesterday was actually his birthday. So he just turned 26. So he's going to be 26. And actually, pretty much at the end of this contract, he'll be pretty much like 30. So solid move for the Ravens. All right, so that's what I got for the Mark Andrews move as the Ravens lock up their tight end for the next 4 seasons. Coming up next year, I wanted to get to Saquon Barkley update. The New York Giants and running back Saquon Barkley seem to feel pretty confident that they feel pretty confident that Saquon Barkley will be ready for week 1. The question is now, will it be limited? Will he play full time? I want to get to Barkley, get to the Giants offense as a whole, and much more relating to New York Giants coming up next. Alrighty, so the New York Giants got some very good news yesterday, and, like I said, kind of the NFL as a whole, because, he's a really good running back. When he's out there, he's very fun to watch, as much as I really don't like the Giants, and I don't think they're a very good team, and I really don't think this whole Daniel Jones, Golladay thing's really going to completely work out. They still have a ton of holes. Their offensive line has as many holes as Swiss cheese on it. So there still is a lot of questions. But this is very good news. New York Giants running back cleared first contact at practice. Practice inches closer to playing in week 1, sources say. So the big question with Saquon Barkley, not really when he first tore his ACL, but going into training camp and going into this season was, will Saquon Barkley be ready for week 1? And that's been the question for this entire offseason. That's been the question not only for the Giants, but it's been a big question throughout the NFL. It has been one of the bigger questions is, will Saquon Barkley not just play, but will he be ready for week 1? And, Giants fans have kind of been split on, do you bring him back for week 1? Do you maybe make sure that he's fully ready and maybe, play the slow game and bring him back week 2 or 3? What do you do? And Giants fans, NFL fans, Giants, I feel like as a whole have kind of split on it, whether or not Barkley not just will play week 1, but should they play him week 1? Because a guy coming off the torn ACL, the last thing you want him to do is go out there, not be fully ready, and go out there week 1 or go out there whenever they're going to play, whether that's week 1 or the final week of the season, and get a major injury, and then boom, that season's over with. That's the last thing you want to do in any sport. A player coming off the injury, and an injury of that magnitude like a torn ACL, and I know so many players get them these days, and I know they're common at this point, stinks to say it, but torn ACLs are common to many players, especially in the NFL. It's still a very major injury. It's still an injury that could alter your career, and it's still an injury that could be a big-time career changer, especially for a running back and a position that uses your lower half as much as he does at the running back position. So it's kind of been the question of, whether or not he will be ready week 1. And if he is, do the Giants play him, or do they take the slow game and say, you know what, we're going to ease you into this? And let's say, even if he does play, is he going to be limited? Are they going to split carries with Devontae Booker? Or are they just going to say, hey, you're ready, you're going out there, you're getting 20 carries, you're going to be out there catching passes out of the backfield and getting carries. That's your role. So that's kind of been the question, and that's not really been answered yet. Although there's been some rumors that he could be limited, but I say this, like, if you're the Giants and he's ready, and if he feels ready and you think he's ready, you go out there and you go out there and you play him. If he seems a little iffy, maybe you don't believe he's fully ready, or maybe he's saying it but you may not see it, you go out there and limit him. Or you could completely say, you know what, we're taking the slow approach. we're going to play you next game, week 1, just, we're going to take this easy. It all depends. But the Giants' offense this offseason has been very interesting because they went out and made all these big signings and draft picks as well. You go out and sign Kenny Golladay, you can make the argument, I don't know, what was the other receivers on the market? Was it not Tyreek Hill, Juju Smith-Schuster, Allen Robinson? Well, he got franchise tagged, but those guys. So Kenny Golladay, I think, was one of the bigger free agent receivers on the market. Maybe I'm missing a big receiver. I don't think I am. But maybe I'm missing someone big. I don't think I am, like I said. But there are a lot of other free agent receivers on the market. But either way here, I think Golladay was one of the best receivers on the market. I think Godwin was also out there. So many different guys, but he was one of the best receivers on the market. They go out and sign Kenny Golladay. You go out and make a very weird draft choice in, Kadarius Toney, and you sign him, or you draft him rather. You traded your pick to the Bears, and then you get the 20th pick. You take Kadarius Toney. I personally disagree with it because you went out and signed Kenny Golladay, and then you just kind of forget about, all that, and you kind of just say, you kind of forget about, that signing, go out and, draft a receiver that his role is kind of questionable when you could have drafted an offensive lineman. And then, Barkley's coming back and all that stuff. So there's still a lot of questions surrounding his offense. And they've made improvements, right? Barkley returns. You sign Kenny Golladay. Kadarius Toney is, question mark. He's kind of been injured a little bit. He hasn't practiced much. He's a rookie. There's always going to be questions around rookies at any position, whether you're a quarterback or whether you're a safety. There's always going to be questions as a rookie. No, there's no other way to put it. But the one issue with the Giants' offense is they haven't really played much together. Like, they haven't really practiced much. It's been a lot of just, it's not been much practice. They haven't practiced much. It's been a lot of, injuries. And now this week it seems like they finally have Kadarius Toney practicing, and Golladay seems to be finally practicing. But Golladay going to be ready, and you have Barkley and all that stuff. And there's still so many questions revolving around this Giants offense. And yes, they went out and made all these moves, signing Golladay and drafting Toney and all that stuff. Their offensive line's still a question. Golladay and Daniel Jones and all them really have not practiced much because they've been injured all offseason. And then you have Barkley, who is just really finally now returning, and they hope he's ready for week 1. So this is what I got to say about the Giants offense. The talent is there. Golladay, Barkley. Offensive line, a massive issue. Not going to get to that, but it's a big issue. You have your receiving core like Shepard, Slayton, solid guys like that. They're not going out there and going to put up 200 yards a game, but they're solid assets. There's still a lot of questions around this Giants offense because Galladay's injury prone. You can't sit here and say Barkley's not injury prone when he's had 2 major injuries in his career. And if he has another major injury, all of a sudden his future with the team is up in the air. But it will be interesting to see what the Giants do. How does Joe Judge and his front office approach their offense? Because Golladay hasn't practiced a ton. Kadarius Toney hasn't practiced much. Barkley, we all know, no fault of his own. This isn't his fault. He tore his ACL, so he was going through a lot of recovery this offseason. Now he's finally really getting back out here and going through some full practice reps. So there's, as much as the Giants have the talent there's still so many questions. Does Golladay play week 1? If he does, how does him and Jones look? What about Toney? All that stuff. And, it's going to be interesting to see how the Giants approach this. Do the Giants approach this and take this slow and say, hey, you know what? We're going to, we want Golladay, Barkley, and all these guys healthy in December when we're playing big-time games in December rather than having them ready for week 1 matchup against Denver. So that's what kind of the question is. And that's also the question here with Barkley as well. Because Barkley is in a weird situation where, as a Giant fan, would you rather Barkley out, would you rather them rush Barkley back, make sure he's out there for week 1, and maybe, maybe have a higher risk of him having an injury and missing the rest of the season? Or would you rather them take it slow and make sure that he's ready for if you're going to be playing big games in December, big games in the final couple weeks of the season, if you're battling for a playoff spot, if you're battling for the division, whatever you're battling for, something involving the playoffs, you need Barkley out there. And that's ultimately the decision that the Giants are going to need to make. Do you bring him back? Need him ready for week 1? Right? Let's get this guy out there. Let's get him going. Or do you take the slow approach and say, we need him late in the year. We're going to take this slow. Not saying they're going to bench him until the late in the season. No, maybe saying we're going to let him miss week 1. Maybe see how he does week 2 and all that stuff. Personally, I think the Giants will probably put him out there week 1, but it definitely still is a question. And this Giants offense as a whole is a question. Because sure, they got assets. Galladay, Toney, Barkley, sure. But your quarterback's a massive question. I don't believe Jones is the answer, but that's a different story, different day. You know how I feel about Daniel Jones. I've said it so many times. I don't need to repeat myself. I don't believe he's the guy there. I don't. But it's going to be interesting to see how the Giants offense does. Because it's in one of these weird situations. Like, you have talent, you got it all, but it's like, are you going to be able to put it together? Like, what's going on with your tight end spot? Like, can you trust Evan Ingram? Can you trust him to go out and do his job? Like, there's so many glaring questions and so many, questions involving the New York Giants and whether or not their offense is going to be smooth or whatever it is. Still so many questions. But it does look like Barkley very well could be ready for week 1. Which, if you ask me, that isn't just big, that is massive for the New York Giants. Because if he's ready and he's fully out there, you're good. But if he's not fully ready and the New York Giants take that risk and boom, he's injured, that's interesting. That could be a problem. I said this about Barkley as well earlier. Here's my thing. I like Barkley a lot. I do. I think he's probably my favorite Giant player. I also like Leonard Williams, former Jet. He was very good. I mean, his final season with us didn't go as planned, which is the reason the Jets traded him. But either way, it's a different story, different day. He's a guy that I still like watching. I still like watching. Barkley's good. There's some other assets as well that I like. I have no issue with Galladay. I mean, he played for the Lions. I have no issue with him. I their offensive line's a big issue. There's not many other guys on the team that I don't like. I mean, I don't really like Daniel Jones. I don't think he's very good. But either way, I like Barkley a lot. And I think we all want to see Barkley succeed and have a good year and be healthy. I think that's what we want to see. You don't want to be a fan and hope for an injury. You want to hope that Barkley's ready and that he's going. But this is a big year for Barkley. Not just on a team standpoint, because this is a massive year for the Giants in general, and I'll get to more of that in a second. But if Barkley has another major injury this season, and I'm saying, let's just say he has another major injury. He plays 3 games and misses the rest of the season. Can you really, he misses the rest of the season. Can you really sit here and say, oh, he's the guy that we need? Can you really sit here and say, oh, he's the running back of the future? If Barkley has another big injury-prone season, there's a very good chance, a very high chance that the Giants look to change at the running back position. So this is a big year for him to make sure that he needs to stay healthy, because that very well could decide his future with the New York Giants. And this is a big year in general for the Giants. Because if the New York Giants, let's say, go 6-10, but they got 17 games this season. Let's say they go 6-11. Joe Judge is all of a sudden up on, he's all of a sudden, his job's all of a sudden iffy, because that means that in his first 2 seasons, he's 12-21 as record. If they go 6-11, you got to assume that Daniel Jones probably doesn't have a great year. I think Daniel Jones, the judging with Daniel Jones is kind of it, because I think 50% of the Giants fans are like, if he has a good year, we're keeping him. I also think 50% of the Giants fans say, if we don't win this year, if Daniel Jones has a good year or not, if we have another 6-win season, he's going to be gone. And that the Giant, I think, fan base is split on that. Personally, I think you got to go off of if they're winning. Like, if they're not winning, I mean, you need a quarterback that's going to bring you wins. I don't care if he goes off for 50 touchdowns, but if the Giants go 6-11 this season, you can't sit here and say, oh, Daniel Jones should return. You can't do that. I think with franchise quarterbacks, as much as you might want to judge them about their play, you got to judge them if they can go out there every Sunday and give you the best chance to win a football game. So that in itself is a question. And it will be interesting whether or not how the Giants kind of judge that. Because if Daniel Jones this season, the Giants win 6 games, do you go in and say, oh, well, he played well, let's bring him back? Or do you say, hey, no, that's our 3rd season finishing below 500 and he's been average. But back to my Giants point with Joe Judge and all that stuff. If the Giants win 6 games, everybody's up. Dave Gettleman's on the hot seat. Joe Judge is on the hot seat. His staff's on the hot seat. Daniel Jones I don't think Giants fully realize this is it. If he has a good year, he'll continue with the team. If he has a bad year and they don't win, he'll be gone. This is it. This is it for him. I mean, this is it. Like, this is his time. We will see what he does. But everybody's up on the hot seat. You know, Joe Judge is going to be on the hot seat. Like, you can't sit here and say if they have another 6-win season, you can't, as a Giant fan, as much as maybe Joe Judge is a culture changer and the players buy in, if he has a 6-win season again, that's 12-21 in his first 2 years. You can't do that. Big year for the Giants coming up. And Barkley practicing and seeing that Barkley should be ready for week 1, right then and there, that's a big decision. Do you go out there and play him maybe with a little bit of a higher risk of him getting injured? Or do you go out there and say, you know what? We need you out here every week of the season. We need to treat every game like it's make the playoffs or not. That's kind of how the Giants got to play this season. They kind of got to play on the edge of their seats. They kind of got to, play each game like it's an elimination game. Because if the Giants start the season 2-6 and Daniel Jones has thrown 5 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, well, that's a big issue. But let's say they start the season 6-2 and Daniel Jones has thrown 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Well, then you have, a different story on your hand. But with Barkley returning, Giants could look at it as, hey, it's a big year for the offense, it's a big year for the team. We need him out here every snap of the season. We need him ready as ready as he is, and bring him out there and let him be your running back. Because if the Giants, like I said, fall early in the year, big issues could arise with not just the players and Daniel Jones, but that coaching staff. You can't sit here and tell me if they win 6 games, Joe Judge's job is safe. He will automatically be on the hot seat. All right, so let's get to this quick article here about Saquon Barkley. I know this was supposed to be more of a Saquon Barkley topic, but it's kind of turned into Giants, I don't know how to title this, Giants update, Giants season preview. Not really, it's not really a season preview because I didn't really go through the defense at all. I kind of just talked about the offense. But this is more of a Saquon Barkley injury update with more Giants talk than Saquon Barkley talk, which isn't off the topic, but either way, let's get to this article. So New York Giants running back Saquon Barkley cleared first contact at practice, inches closer to playing week 1, sources say. Alrighty, so let's get to this article here. So New York Giants running back Saquon Barkley cleared yet another hurdle when he came through his first contact at practice late last week. With no issues, multiple sources told ESPN. If all goes well in Wednesday's padded practice, Barkley is expected to be on the field Sunday for the team's week 1 week 1 game against the Denver Broncos. His workload would still be limited as the Giants continue to take a long-term approach with their star running back. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported last week that Barkley was trending in the right direction to play against the Broncos, with only a late setback or the Giants potentially holding him back. Barkley was out at practice moving well Monday afternoon. I can't speak for him directly, but he was smiling today, Coach Joe Judge said. Judge said we'll see a little bit more from Barkley this week at practice. After that, a decision on the running back status for the season opener will be made later in the week. I want to see how he responds to a couple things physically within his body and make the best assessment going forward for him this week and going forward past that, Judge said. Barkley tore the ACL in his right knee last October, and the Giants have been extra cautious with their top offensive weapon this spring and summer. And for such a big year with the Giants in terms of especially their offense, like their defense is really good. There's really no questions about that. They got a very good defense, very good secondary, very good pass rush. Patrick Graham over there has done a great job. Their offense is a big question. And if you want your offense to succeed, if you want to have a good year on offense, you need to have your top weapon out there, and that's Saquon Barkley, when healthy. Barkley did not appear in a preseason game and didn't participate in live drills until less than 2 weeks ago, wearing a red no-contact jersey in New England. His first taste of contact came in a padded practice Thursday at Quest Diagnostic Training Center. Felt good at practice and practicing with everyone on the team, Barkley said afterward. Think that was definitely needed. Just grateful to be out here and just getting ready for the season. It's mostly all encouraging news for the Giants and their offense with Barkley, wide receivers Kenny Golladay hamstring, and Kadarius Toney hamstring, and tight end Kyle Rudolph foot all trending in the right direction for week 1. Like I said, it's all good, but this is really the only time finally they're all practicing together. And I don't even think that's just me speculating. I believe that's actually true. I think this is like the first time, throughout training camp, mini camp, all that stuff, where they are finally all practicing together. Which could result in a slow start, but, Golladay, all these guys, they do have experience. Alrighty, so only tight end Evan Ingram calf is in serious doubt to miss Sunday's game, which, to be honest, I don't think many Giants fans are going to be mad about that. I don't think the Giants, as a franchise, are mad about that. If there is a guy in your offense that you're okay with missing, like I said, I'm not trying to say that, I'm not saying Giants fans should be happy Evan Ingram's injured. You never want that. But if there is a guy in the offense that you're okay with, it's not like, oh, we'll lose him. Or like Barkley, if he doesn't play week 1, Giants fans might be like, oh no, we're without him. Ingram's a guy that you could deal without. He's not a very good tight end. We all know Giants fans, he's not very liked. Either way. If he's out, and like I said with the tight end position, I think there's a good chance middle of the season, if Kyle Rudolph's doing well, he could take the job over Evan Ingram easily. A number of these guys coming back right now. We're optimistic about all of them, guys. Judge said we'll see how they do this week in practice. So we'll see. It's kind of funny because as much as the Giants have suffered little blows like hamstring, stuff like that, the Jets have suffered big blows. Like, the Giants have had more little injuries. Barkley's not a little injury, but the Jets have suffered more big injuries. Like, less injuries, but big blows. Jared Davis. Look at Carl Lawson. Torn Achilles done for the year. Jared Davis is going to be out until our bye week after, like, week 6 or whatever. The Giants have had many little injuries, but they've had a lot of them. Barkley's not a little injury, but either way, he's still coming back from the torn ACL. That was more last season. Now he's just kind of coming back. So, both New York football teams dealing with injuries. I mean, it's the nature of the sport. It's how it is. I mean, I've always said this. You always want to go into the year, and I've always said this. Like, when you look at, even if you go into baseball and you look at the starting lineup on opening day, then you look at the last starting lineup of the regular season or even the postseason. It's the amount of difference from the starting lineup on the first game of the season to the last. Even the NFL. You're the guys, the 11 guys that are out there for the first snap of the starting offense, starting defense in the first game of the season compared to the last game of the season. It's pretty wild, all the changes. And even if teams don't have injuries, just the performances and players playing and, just maybe, even just performances, if you want to put another guy in over this guy or whatever, never do we ever really see your starting offense or your starting lineup, from the first game of the season is completely the same and especially in football. Baseball, maybe a little bit, maybe it's a little bit more close, but look at the Mets, for example. Their starting lineup on the first day of the season it's crazy with all the injuries they've went to compared to now and compared to even middle of the season. Yankees, Jay Bruce was in their opening day lineup. Just think about that for a second. So, the Giants have suffered a lot of little injuries, and there's going to be injuries throughout the season. It's the nature of the sport. It's just a matter of, how do you react to those injuries, and depth. But right now, with all the injuries the Giants have suffered this offseason and, these hamstring and these little nagging things, there is, there's finally seems to be a little bit of hope that most of these guys can be ready for week 1 of the NFL season, which, by the way, is against the Broncos. And they've got a very good defense over there. So I don't know if that changes the thought process of all of saying, oh, they got a really good defense, we should probably have our best guys out there. If you were going up against, I don't know, a defense like the Cowboys week 1, you might say, oh, we might be able to still beat them because their defense is so bad. But the Broncos have a very good defense. And the Broncos actually got a very underrated team. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is a question mark. Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, whoever was under center, still would have been a question mark. I probably would have trusted, I'm not going to get into it. I've already talked about it already on the podcast. But either way, Drew Lock or, Teddy Bridgewater, whoever's out there, they got weapons on that offense. I mean, they do. Their running backs, Javonte Williams, and you got Melvin Gordon. They got 2 solid running backs there. Their offensive line's actually pretty good. They got, Noah Fant, good tight end. You got Cortland Sutton. You got Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, 3 really solid receivers. The Broncos, for the Giants' week 1 opponent, you can't take them lightly. They got a very good defense, and their offense is very underrated, but got a lot of good pieces to that offense. In terms of, in terms of receivers, Noah Fant, I've liked him ever since he came out of college. Very solid tight end out of college. Cortland Sutton, all that stuff. And the Broncos this season, too, I think you're going to see their offense actually only be better because last season they were without Cortland Sutton pretty much the entire year. I think he might have played 1 game and then he tore his ACL and he was done for the year. Jerry Jeudy in his second season, you expect to see some more progress out of him. KJ Hamler had a very good season for being a little bit of a later round pick. Another asset there. I mean, you could make the argument that the Broncos have one of the, more underrated receiving cores in the league. Noah Fant, Sutton, Jeudy, Hamler. Quarterback's a question mark, but with the assets around him, you got to hope that Teddy Bridgewater can make it work. But we'll see. All right, so let's get to the New York Sports Update here and finish off the podcast here. So as I mentioned earlier, there was a college football game on last night with Ole Miss Louisville. So college football for week 1 is officially done. Now we look ahead kind of to week 2. Not as many, big time games week 2. There is a big game between Oregon and Ohio State. That's actually a big game for Oregon because you talk about the Pac-12 and them not having success getting into the college football playoff. If Oregon can knock off Ohio State, that is a massive win and a massive jump for the rankings and their chances of making the playoff. You got some other games, other than that, you don't have any major games on. I mean, this is kind of when it gets into the grind of the season. It's like you got Alabama playing against Mercer. Like, we all know Alabama is going to crush Mercer. Iowa's actually a pretty good game. It's, 2 Iowas battling against each other. I think that's really... Washington, Michigan's actually, I guess, a pretty good game. BYU, Utah's pretty good. Some teams like that. BYU, a solid team over there. And we know with them, maybe some people criticizing their schedule, but they had a good team last season. We could see if they do it this year. Utah, another Pac-12 team, trying to just find their way to get closer and closer to that playoff. Michigan, Washington is actually a pretty good game because Washington got upset. But Michigan coming into the season really unranked and maybe not the team many people expect. So that's another matchup as well there that, could be interesting. So either way, a lot of good college football coming up. But let's get to the topics. Let's get to the games yesterday in the MLB. The Rangers won, the Cheaters won, the Twins won, Giants won, Dodgers won, Rays won, Phillies won, Cubs won, Pirates won and Royals won. Nationals beat the Mets yesterday 4-3, as I mentioned earlier. So the Mets moved to 69-69 on the season. And Edwin Diaz blows yet another save. Yankees also lost 8-0 yesterday. They just continue to struggle. They got to find a way to win today. And as I mentioned yesterday, I talked about kind of the pitching matchups and who's coming up here. Yankees, by the way, moved to 78-59 in the season. Just some of the pitching matchups and all that stuff, they got Cole in the mound today. So that's at least a confidence boost. But either way, let's get to the games for today. We got the Indians, Twins. I'll give Indians the win. Pirates, Tigers. I'll give Pirates the win. We'll get to the Mets and the Marlins in a second. Orioles, Royals. I'll give Royals the win. Let's see here. So Red Sox, Rays. I'll give Red Sox the win. Actually, Rays the win. Rays, yeah. Braves, Nationals. Give Braves the win. Phillies, Brewers. Give Phillies the win. Reds, Cubs. Give Reds the win. Dodgers, Cardinals. Give Dodgers the win. Cheaters, Mariners. Give Cheaters the win. Giants, Rockies. Give Giants the win. Diamondbacks, Rangers. Give Diamondbacks the win. White Sox, A's, White Sox. Give A's the win. And Padres, Angels. Give Padres the win. Mets, Marlins also play today. Mets come in this game 69-69. Marlins come in this game 57-80. Mets got Carlos Carrasco on the mound. He's 0-2 with a 6.59 ERA. And the Marlins got Cabrera on the mound. He's 0-1 with a 5.23 ERA. This game goes on today, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox Sports 1. And the over-under for this game is set at 7.5. 61% of people think the Mets will win. I do think the Mets will win. The Marlins rebuilding, not a very good team over there. As for the Yankees and the Blue Jays, Yankees come in this game 78-59. Blue Jays come in this game 74-62. This is game 2 of a 4-game set. This comes on today, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Yes. The Blue Jays got Steven Matz on the mound. He's 10-7 on a 3.81 ERA. He's actually had a pretty solid season. He struggled with the Mets. He's actually had a pretty solid year with the Blue Jays. And the Yankees got Garrett Cole on the mound. He's 14-6 with a 2.73 ERA. The over-under is 8.5 for this game. And 59% of people think the Yankees will win. I think the Yankees will win for one reason only. We have a race on the mound, and that is Garrett Cole. I mean, if we can't hit, we won't win, but we got to hit. I mean, scoring 0 runs isn't going to help you win. Alrighty, and as for fantasy baseball, I'm currently winning 47-8, so doing very well to start off here. Today I've got going Will Smith. Let's see here. Will Smith, Matt Olson, Jay Cronenworth, Gene Segura, Marcus Semien, Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, Christian Yelich, Whit Merrifield, Austin Meadows, Dylan Carlson, Josh Harrison, and Austin Riley. Still kind of waiting to see whether Voit will play or what's going on with Avisail Garcia, all that. And then I got Garrett Cole and James Caprillion on the mound. I also made a roster move today. I added Tyler Rogers and dropped Tariq Skubal. There's some pitchers I'm eyeing for some other starts here, but I dropped Tariq Skubal and added Tyler Rogers. I've added him a little bit. I looked at his game log. I'm hoping just to get some points out of him. I'm hoping he actually gets in the game today. I'm looking at his game log. He's had a very good season. But I'm looking at his game log, and he pitches about every other day. Like, he pitched September 1st, then the 2nd, then the 3rd. Then he had a day off 4th, then he pitched the 5th. Like, the 26th he pitched, then the 28th, then the 1st, then the 2nd. Then the 3rd, he pitched 3 days in a row there. Then he had a day off, then he pitched the 5th. So, he pitched the 5th, did not pitch yesterday. I believe they might. Did they play yesterday? I think the Giants played yesterday anyway. But either way, he didn't pitch yesterday. So, whatever the case may be, today's looks like it could be lined up to where he pitches. So I hope, and it's against the Rockies, not a very good offense over there. It is in Colorado, thin air, not a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, but I'm just hoping that he pitches today, can get me a couple points, and then I'll probably drop him for a starter. That's kind of my thought process behind that. Other than that, though, no real news on the injury update, other than Garcia hamstring back isn't starting Monday against the Phillies, Monday's game against the Phillies. So he missed yesterday's game as well. I wouldn't be surprised if the Brewers put him on the IL eventually. I mean, this is kind of something that's been happening for the past couple games here. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Brewers just go ahead and place him on the IL instead of having him on the active roster. But we'll see how it all goes. But that's the lineup. That's what I got for the playoffs. Playoffs today and yesterday. So it will continue pretty much the whole week. And then the way it's looking, because the sixth seed in my league is getting smoked. So the way it's looking is if I would to win this matchup, I got to go play the 1 seed, which is not really what I want, but it is what it is. I mean, at least I'm in the playoffs, and right now, at least I'm winning. So, but we'll see. Either way, that'll do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I'm thinking that tomorrow, if I'm going to do it, I'm still debating on if I do it. I sometimes do it. I sometimes don't. Whether or not I'm going to do my standings projections for the NFL. Still kind of deciding. I might still do it. Might not. I think it also depends on if there's any other news that comes out in the NFL and all that stuff. So I might do it. I might not. comment down below if you want me to do it. What I was going to do is just predict the standings, give you standings for each of the AFC East, not just the AFC, but all the AFC, NFC, give you the records of each team. Not going to go in depth in each team, but I'll do kind of what I did with fantasy football. I will give you each division, give you the records for who will finish, each place. Probably not going to give you the playoffs and stuff. I guess I can make my Super Bowl prediction, like just my early prediction, but sometimes I don't like to do that because it's like so early to be making your Super Bowl prediction. Like, we haven't even started the season yet, and people are already predicting who's going to be in the Super Bowl. And I get it; it's fun because if you get it right, it's like, oh, I called it. But either way, we'll see if I do that. I might do it. I'm not too sure yet. I don't think I did it last season, but I always usually make a prediction, like where the Jets and Giants are going to finish and playoffs and all that. But I usually never like completely write it down and really put much crazy amount of thought into it. I mean, I usually do have a good idea of who I think is going to make the Super Bowl, but I never usually like say it because it's like, if I really wanted to predict who's going to be Super Bowl, I would actually go really in depth and try to predict it. I mean, I think you always got to have the Chiefs as a big opponent. Bills this season. I think in the NFC, everyone always says the Packers, but they can't win the NFC Championship game. So who knows? We'll see though. But that'll do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.